Good morning.
Good morning.
Do not think that I have come to bring peace to earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. These are the words of Jesus of Nazareth as he spoke to his disciples. Do not think that I have come to bring peace on the earth. I came with a sword. That's a wonderful metaphor. We, as New Thought students, believe 5 things: the omnipresence of God, the divinity of man, that man is a spiritual being, the value and power of thought, that through our thinking we build our lives, practicing the presence. When we practice the presence, we say, we try to maintain that spiritual contact with God our Father. And because of that, the 5th one is the law of demonstration, that what we think about, we bring about. But most of us, as thinking beings, do not always think that we are spiritual beings. Our minds get carried away in far-off places where we experience lack, limitation, sickness, near-death experiences, unhappiness. Although we teach that the mind is the stage on which life is built, we sometimes forget. And as we forget, we allow things to happen in our lives that sometimes cause us to get frustrated, to deny the presence of God in us, and to create lives that have no worth. But we who study the mind say that the mind is the cause of everything that happens to us as individuals. From our minds come forth the issues of our lives. Now, it's very, very difficult to take that as a truth when we are told to blame everybody else, but take responsibility for what's going on in our lives. It is very difficult to accept we are spiritual beings when we have human experiences in our bodies and in our relationships and in the areas of our lives where we interact with others. But as soon as we realize that each mind is actually an individual expression of the one mind we call God, and that mind and each mind is creative and causative, that everything we hold in mind becomes our reality, we begin to make changes in our lives. One of the things that plague us all through our lives is forgetfulness. We forget that we are spiritual beings. We forget that the Spirit of God resides in us at all times, that it does not have to come, that the whole Spirit of God means that when God is fully interlaced with our mentality, we begin to do the things that Jesus said that we are capable of doing. That means the whole activity of God operates in and through us. That is our day of Pentecost. When we come to realize that I can do all things through Christ that resides in me, that is the day when we rise up and we defeat the things that happen in our lives because of forgetfulness. Mind is causative. Whatever we hold in mind becomes our experience, and also these are the things we will express. You cannot express anything unless it is a factor in your mind. Your mind is creative. It takes ideas that are non-visible, it shapes them, forms them, and then sets out to manifest or experience. All of us have been conditioned, and therefore individual minds are conditioned to think in a certain way. Based on the way we think, the results would always be equal. The effect is equal to the cause. The cause is that which one holds in mind. It's based on belief, and belief is the law of mind action. Whatever you believe or hold to be true must come forth. Jesus said it nicely. He says, when you pray, believe that you have it. In other words, whatever you believe that you have, you have. If you believe you're sick, you are sick. If you believe that you are dying, you will die. You are dying. If you believe you are poor, you will experience poverty, and it doesn't matter how much money you have in your reserves or in your bank. Thought is powerful. Thought generates thoughts like themselves. The mind is like a garden that we plant with seeds. And these seeds produce trees of their kind. And these trees produce seeds of their kind, which when planted produce the same fruit as the parent. So some of us do not realize that our lives are like a continuum. We keep planting, we keep producing and harvesting, and we keep complaining and complaining about the fruits we get from the seeds we have planted. If you plant beans, you get oranges. Am I right? No. Well then, why do you keep planting beans and expect oranges? Whatever a man sows, she reaps. Your life is the story of the thoughts that you have planted. Your life is the story of the script that you have written and now live out. Your life is your plan of action that you set to put in place from the beginning of your thinking. Is that beautiful? I love that. But say you love it too, please. I love that. Yeah, and the reason why I love it is because I know that I am in charge of my life. Woo! Now, many people don't like that. They believe that there is this static figure in the sky that is responsible. When God, it says, created man, he gave man free will. Wow. Free will to make choices. when all the things that God had created were created, he brought them before man and he said, name them. And whatever name you give them, that's what they will be to you. Isn't that wonderful? That you pick your enemies and pick your friends from the thoughts that you think. There comes a time in our lives when we realize that what we are experiencing is not what we would like to experience anymore. And you may go to a New Thought church and hear things like, I am one with God. I am one with all life. I am one with all people. And something might click and say, that sounds plausible. And then another thought wave will come and say, that's junk. That's no good for you. That's baloney. Because of what you had been taught before. New Thought is putting a new spin on the same thing I might have been taught that has not worked for me. And now I think it's time for me to think differently about the same thing. This is where the revolution begins. As soon as a new thought bounces up the wall of old thoughts, there is an inner battle that begins to form. Be ye transformed, Paul says, by the renewing of the mind. This renewing of the mind is trying to release old thought patterns and old beliefs that have caused you all the pain and suffering as you forget who and what you are. Forgetfulness, we say, is the cause of all our troubles. If we could remember at all times that as spiritual beings, we have been given mastery, authority, and dominion over the thoughts that enter or we create in our minds, that we are in control of what we think. Hello now. Therefore, we are in control of our life's experiences. We are in control of what we express from our mouth and of the behavior that we have. Ain't no Freudian slip. It comes directly from my thinking. When I realize that, and I remember that error thought patterns, things that I thought about myself, what did I think about myself? I thought I was just a little piece of coal on the ground, based on what they told me. I thought because I was this color of my skin, I had to stand back. I've been told so many things about being male or being female, and I believe those things to be true. And I forgot that when God created me after its image likeness, and God breathed his breath into me, making me personally a living soul. And because God was responsible for my creation, God has given me power for me to create whatever I want in my life. So I could reject your thought patterns about me and lay hold of the truth of my being, that as a spiritual being, I am made in the image likeness of God. Everything that is of God is in me here right now. Well, when I realize that, something happens. But as I turn to act, the old thought pattern, who do you think you are, comes back. Hello now. Yes. And I become dependent on other people again. When I release the thoughts that people are responsible for my life and keep thinking that I am responsible for everything about me, what goes on in me and outside of me, the change occurs. That's where the battle begins. As soon as I start to have a new picture of myself, the old pictures, haven't you ever been confronted? You go for a job and you practice the interview long before. And as you sit down in the chair, you think the person interviewing you, he has or she has power over you, and you start to cringe. Has that ever happened? Huh? Or you've been suddenly called to the office by the boss, and you've been walking down the corridor, all power is given unto me. And as the door opens, all power has been lost by me. And you start to cower. Wherever I am, God is. God is that in me that is always powerful, can resurrect, can cause me to move, and knows exactly why I am in the place that I am. You see, as spiritual beings, we are like the wind. The wind just blows. It does what it has to do. It becomes a hurricane, it becomes a gale. It just operates out of the law that it is working with at that time. Just like water. When water freezes, same water, it becomes ice. But it's the same water. When it heats up, it's steam, but it's the same water. It's the same thing like me. Wherever I am, I respond according to the laws that operate in my mind. If I could realize that wherever I am one with God, and I have mastery, dominion, and authority over what is going on in my life, well then, you could say you're fired. But I know being fired is an opportunity that God has given me to climb the ladder of success that I see in my mind. Hello now. You know, a lot of people get afraid when they get fired. Well, like 28 years ago or nearly 30 years ago, I decided to leave my job. I fired them. To do what I wanted to do. It has not been, and it was not a process where I went from good to good. There was a battle. There was a battle. Some mornings I got up and there was no money. Hello now. Some mornings I got up, there was nothing to eat. Hello? But I was in charge of my own hunger. Hello now. I was in charge of whether I got up and sang and be happy or be sad and miserable. I made that decision. And when you make a decision knowing that the picture that you have formed in your head takes time to develop, and there are going to be battles along the way sometimes when you're sitting there and you're hungry. Spirit says, go for a walk. And as you're walking, the hunger disappears. And you feel full. And you drink some water. And you start doing things that you did not do before. And you begin to realize that a lot of stuff that you ate, you didn't need to eat. That you only need a small amount of food, lots of water, a lot of air, and a lot of exercise. So you change the way you operate and you experience life differently. Every opportunity provides you with an opportunity to do what? Think differently. And as you think differently, you begin to act differently, and the responses that you get from the universe, you get to realize how the universe supplies. That the voices that are trying to speak to you now that you have disregarded, your mind open up. You see, when you're hungry, you'll eat from anybody. And you stop condemning. We've been taught to condemn, to judge by appearances, and to look at places and say, I will not eat there because. You ever had that? Yes. When I could go down Spadina and get a whole big plate of food for $3. Hello, long ago that would not be a good thing to do. But I discovered restaurants that were, in relationship to my pocket, very good. And you open up your mind to possibility and you stop condemning. The battle is when pride takes over. You know, when you have told yourself, I will never be seen there. And then you have to hide to step into the restaurant to buy the food, and you're looking to see who is coming in. When your pride is gone, that's a barrier that has been broken, and the fight and the struggle to maintain your life ceases. We create the mental barriers that prevent us from succeeding in life. You know, some of us, when we spend, we got to spend big, although we don't have. Right? And then after spending big, we regret. And the battle goes on. The battle in life is not outside. It has nothing to do with the bay. The bay does not cause you to spend. The bay is there for people who have the money to spend. It's not for you. I just said. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Wherever you are, God has prepared everything there for you, but you refuse to harvest because you think you deserve better at this time. Wherever you are in your right place based on your consciousness. That's the level you should operate. You should aim high, but understand that wherever you are, God is. And that wherever your level of consciousness is or your belief system, that's where you are. You can't be where somebody else is. You can't be operating with no budget and want to live like somebody who has a budget. You can't do that. You can't operate out of context. The battle comes when we want to live a certain way and we can't. You need to free your mind and realize that we operate out of what we call consciousness, our level of understanding. When we understand this about us, we can make the changes and move to another consciousness by learning to appreciate where we are. Every branch of mine that bears no fruit, he takes away. Every branch that does not bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. This is how spirit works. This is my understanding based on my life. And when I tell you my life, I came from a mental disposition of poverty. A mental, all around me, there was abundance. But I could not appreciate the abundance because I did not appreciate who I was, who my parents were. And because of that, I had a big fight going on in me. So when I tell you about the journey of life, moving from state to state, this is personal. This is personal. What you see now was not always that was there. You like it? I'm just saying, this is a work in progress. When you deny who you are, when you deny the faith that God has placed in you to become an individualized expression of itself, when you curse God by thinking of yourself lower than God has made you, things begin to happen. I have had a lot of opportunities in life where people saw the good in me and tried to push me forward. And what did I do? Deny them all and struggled. I remember I went back to Trinidad from England, and by the way, there was a newsreel that went around the Commonwealth with me in it as a star student. I just want to tell you that.
Good for you.
But my attitude was, that was nonsense. And I went back into that mold of self-denial. You see, sometimes God places us in situations for the truth of our being to come forth. But if you don't know who the truth of you will still act in a low estate. All of us are created from the same mold by the same spiritual force called God. And all of us are equal. All of us are equal. Say, I am equal.
I am equal.
There is no one on the planet Earth
No one on the planet
better than I am.
better than I am.
I am that I am.
I am that I am.
God's gift
God's gift
to wherever I am.
to wherever I am.
You got to believe that. Stop portraying the negative that you have thought about yourself. Realize that wherever you are a blessing. Stop fighting with yourself. There's a part of you that wants to come forth, but you keep denying it. You keep telling lies. You wish your parents were different. You wish you lived in a different place. You wish but the fact is that wherever God placed you, God placed you there for you to experience yourself as itself perfect, whole, complete. What you think about yourself is not you. That's your thoughts. That's your creative ability to create for yourself an image of yourself that is not you. You are not a slave. But if you believe you're a slave, you have to be a slave. Hello now? Excuse me? I'm talking to you. If you believe that you must take garbage and make it your best, you're living a lie. You deserve the best. Fear not, little flock. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you what? The kingdom. That means all of God's good is available to you. It doesn't matter where you were born, to whom you were born, and the quality of life you may have lived before. Right now, if you come to realize that wherever you are just as good as where you are, you do not need to suffer from self-concept that says, my being here is a mistake. Sooner or later, they will come and get me and throw me out. Because some of us act that way. We are not sure that we are in the right place. When God's bounty begins to be showered on us, we look back to see if anybody is looking at us to come and claim it from us. Wherever I am, I'm not only beautiful, but I generate the beauty of God. If you see me, you see the Father. This is my stance, that wherever I am, I don't have to subject myself to what others think of me. I know who I am. I'm a spiritual being created in and after the image likeness of the Creator. Therefore, if I'm a painting, I was painted by God. That means God threw God's self into the paint and the brush and the canvas and produced me a one-of-a-kind individual expression of what God was in that moment. You have to come to realize this. and stop the fight that goes on inside. You are not where you were born and to whom you were born. You have to have a master inside of you. I want to invite you this morning to entertain the thought that Christ in me is my guide. Christ in me, or the Spirit of God in me, directs my path, is the creator, knows where I should be, and takes me there daily. God provides for me the daily bread that I need. I need to eat of this bread and realize this bread is for me and me alone. It's not for anybody else. What God does for me daily is to prepare this table of goodness for me. It's all around me, and I have to learn to appreciate it. Appreciation is a wonderful thing. When you realize that wherever you are, there is this wonderful universal presence that is in the midst of you. It's called the kingdom of heaven, and all that God has is in it. You have to pick and eat. Call not what the Lord made unclean. Wow. We fight because we make differences and we judge. And we don't realize that wherever we are, there is this wonderful something that is there. Open up your eyes and see what God has prepared for you. Don't struggle. When they tell you they don't need you anymore, here, that means over there, that you have been avoiding for years, is now open to you. Isn't that nice? You ever notice that with people in your life who you have condemned? Opportunities open up for you to meet them, and you discover how, oh my God, I should have been interacting with these and not those long before. You ever had that experience? Huh? Call not what God has made unclean. To change requires you coming to know who you are. And sometimes it's very difficult because our minds are embedded with some false notions. False notions. And I'm going to say this here without malice. Every human being was made after the image, likeness of God. Whether your mother and father were married, God made you. You cannot have life without God breathing itself in and through you. It doesn't matter which vehicle you came with. All the buses are the same. And all the buses are going to the same terminal. They're traveling the same path in life to come to know who you are as you were in the beginning. Stop struggling with who you think you are based on what they said about you, and come to realize you cannot be alive unless God is alive in you. I just want to share that with you. You are the greatest thing in the presence of God. It doesn't matter what you choose to do with yourself. God has given you free will to act upon your thinking for you. Be you. You don't have to pretend to me and then be somebody else over there. Be one. Wherever you are, declare yourself to be who you are and stop stressing yourself out, trying to be here and there, two different people. Isn't that sad? That we can't stand up and declare who we are in different places. because we might be afraid of what they may say. To heaven with them. And then let them go to hell. Transformation should be our constant goal. Everything we do in life, the aim should be to become a little better, to do a little more. If you keep doing the same thing that you did before, how could you expect change to come? Change is a deliberate, conscious action that takes place in the mind when you tell yourself it is time to change. You can't change because I tell you you need to change. You've got to realize that what you have is not what you think you should have, and start to think about what you should have and set on the journey to bring about what you think you should have. It takes strong, committed leadership to change. And that leadership comes from within you. Don't let people pamper you and tell you, oh, you're doing well. You know how you're doing inside of you. If you know inside of you you're not doing well, you're not doing well. I could tell you whatever I want. All opinions coming from other people to you are lies. They are their opinion. They're not true. The only truth is what you think of yourself. What do you think of yourself? That's the question this morning. What do you think of yourself? Do you think you have the power to transform your mind and transform your life? If you don't believe it, it can't happen. That's how simple this is. Do you believe you have mastery, authority, and dominion over everything that passes through your mind? Do you believe that? Or are you still in control? By another force. Well, Wednesday is garbage day. You didn't pick out. I didn't feel like doing it today. I didn't do it. End the story. I'm just saying that, Richard, go put out your garbage. We are free to do what we need to do when we need to do, when we feel like doing what we need to do. It's very important. Don't be programmed by somebody else. And you're doing it, but you're angry. You ever doing things in life and you're angry, you're upset? And then you come in for counseling. And then going back and doing the same thing.
Wasting time.
Hello now. Does that make sense? You're nuts. Does it make sense to realize that what you're doing and the habit that you have is not right? Getting advice and then going back and doing the same thing because you feel somebody else has power over you. The key is, do you believe that somebody else has power over you? Hello now. Hello. Do you believe that other people have power over you?
No.
You just saying that today. When you go back, if you keep giving them power, those words that you say, they're not true. Power means the ability to take control. That's what power is. The ability to take control begins with responsibility, the ability to respond by myself, for myself. When I learn to do that, there's no conflict. When I realize that the person that I am living for is me, I don't say to you, well, I gave you everything, and this is what I get. No. Hello now. I got what I deserve because I didn't know who I was. And now that I know who I am, I'm going to finish right there, you know, because I want people to live happily ever after out of their own life experience. In other words, what you think is right for you. When you think it's time to change, you don't have to keep going through the wars in your mind. When you realize that you're here to share your life with others, it's a wonderful gift. You get up in the morning, you don't want to talk, you don't want to talk. Next morning you get up, you want to talk, you talk whole day. Hello now. That's life. But you are in control of your thinking and there's no fight. If you're happy doing it, do it. If you're not happy doing it, that means there is conflict. Don't do it. That's the rule of law now. If you believe it ain't right, don't do it. At your stage of consciousness, if you believe it's right, do it. There will come a time when something will happen and your mind will say, it's nice, you have done it, but do something else. God bless.
All the way, I'm going all the way, all the way, I'm going all the way, all the way, I'm going all